A special welcome to those of you who are here and joining us for the very first time. And I do see quite a few new faces here today. So a very warm welcome again. Of course, I also want to thank those of you who have been coming out since our first event in May, and welcome back. And hope you will get as nice an experience, if not better, than the previous events. So since we just had the new moon a couple of days ago, I would like all of us to just take a quick moment to go inwards and set a goal for yourself, and then we'll join together and set the intention as a group collectively. Yes? Oh, yes, I'm so sorry. Thank you for the reminder. If you could, you don't actually have to, but if it's more comfortable for you now to turn your chairs to face me, because otherwise I was actually going to bring that up when the presenters who are up here. I mean, for right now, it's just okay, it's good enough if you can see me, but perhaps it's more comfortable for you to turn your chairs now. Thank you for that. So, as I mentioned, please just close your eyes and just take a moment to reflect and set a new goal or renew a goal for yourself, since we just had the new moon and it's an especially good time to do that. And please now draw that to a close. And we will now set the intention as a group so that we can become the best channels that we can be in this new cycle onwards, for greater light and healing to flow through us out to the world. And I think that's probably why many of you are here today, so that you can learn, or better learn, how to harness great spiritual power in order to be able to be a better channel for God's light to flow through you out to the world. So now, I would just like to share briefly what King Yoga is for the benefit of our new attenders. So King Yoga basically is the new name for the path of the Aetherius Society, and which is used to honor Dr. George King, who is the founder spiritual master of the Aetherius Society. King Yoga is comprised of three main aspects, and the first one is cosmic wisdom through the spiritual teachings, which is given by Dr. King himself, as well as channeled teachings given through Dr. George King, and he received hundreds of those, over 600 of channeled teachings, which we call transmissions. And today you will hear a short extract, about 4-minute extract, from a very advanced spiritual master, the Master Jesus from the planet Venus, later on in our event today. And the second aspect of this spiritual path is the spiritual practices. And we use the spiritual practices so that we can become a better channel for the light to flow through us out to the world. And then the last aspect is service. And this is, if you were to think of the three aspects to be formed by a triangle, so we have the teachings, and at the bottom, one bottom corner, and then the other one is formed by the spiritual practices. So they form the foundation, so that at the top, we can give better service as a light worker in the world. And Karma Yoga, as described by Dr. George King, is the most important yoga of all the yogas. And he's not the only spiritual master who said that. For example, the Swami Satyananda, who is chief disciple of Swami Shivananda, he also agreed with Dr. King. And so you may ask, what the difference is between King Yoga and all the other yogas. So simply put, the most important difference between King Yoga and the other yogas is that King Yoga is first and foremost designed to help humanity as a whole rather than just helping the individual. And to quote Dr. King, he said that there's only one way to advance, and only one way. That is not only to evolve yourself, but also do everything in your power to help others evolve themselves. So I think this paints a really good picture of what the path of the Aetherius Society King Yoga is all about. And at the core of this, it is really about selfless service to others so that we can all evolve together, because there is this interconnectedness between all of us. Now, as for the event here today, entitled Harness Great Spiritual Power, as I mentioned, I understand that our two presenters, Ronnie Crosby and the Reverend Stephen Matway, who are already sitting amongst us in the temple, they have designed for this to be very interactive. So we will all get to experience and learn how to invoke great spiritual power so that we can use this to help our world. And let me see what else. And just a few words about our two presenters. Rodney and Stephen became a member of the Aetherius Society at a very young age, and I think Rodney beats Stephen in terms of this. He actually became a member when he was 15, and both knew Dr. King very well and worked for Dr. King for over 25 years. So they definitely knew Dr. King and have some really insightful personal stories to share. If you're interested in that, talk to them later. And Stephen is still on the staff team, and Rodney also was a staff team member for 10 years. Now, last, I'd just like to give you a quick run through of the format for the event today so that we're all on the same page. So as a start, once the presenters come up here to start presenting, we are having a 30-minute segment of practices or exercises so that we can all learn how to experience and invoke their spiritual power so that we can use it in a very beneficial manner. And then after that, we'll have very brief sharing of experiences for just a few minutes. And then that will be followed by a short break, about 5 minutes, just, stretch break, water break, washroom. And then after that, we'll all come back together for another 30-minute segment of presentation about some teachings aspect of King Yoga. And then after that, we'll have further sharing of experiences, and we'll have a bit more time to do that. We will have about 15 minutes or so. And then after that, the program in the temple here is actually at the end of that. We will all, for those of you who would like to join us for some refreshments, 2 buildings down from here. We would love to continue to get to know you better and hear what your experiences are from today. So again, thank you all for being here. So I would now invite our presenters, Rodney Crosby and the Reverend Stephen Matway, to come up here. And please welcome them.
Thank you, Ashima. Welcome, everybody. How's everybody doing today? Good, good. Well, as Ashima said, we're going to be talking about harnessing spiritual energy. We're going to share some personal experiences, so you don't have to wait to ask us later. We're going to force those on you during the presentation. So if it gets too long, cut us short, but I think you'll find it interesting. As Ashima said, this event is called Harnessing Great Spiritual Power. So is everybody ready to harness great spiritual power? Awesome. I see a hand going up, so I think somebody is. So the first thing I want to ask is, did you all harness the power of coffee this morning? Okay, well, that's not the power we're talking about. But it's a start. It's a start for me anyway. That's how I start my days. So I want to ask, who has never, ever harnessed spiritual power? Is there anybody here who you have not? Okay, we're going to change that. Who feels that they have harnessed spiritual power? Okay, we've got a lot of hands going up. Now, I think that's great, and I'm going to say this right off the bat. All of you definitely have harnessed spiritual power. I can tell you that for a fact. How do I know that? Because you're all alive. You're all breathing, right? And what is breath? The breath is the fundamental act that we all need to stay alive. Not just because of the oxygen on the breath, but because of the prana on the breath, right? We all know that. Because if we're breathing, then we are definitely harnessing a kind of spiritual power, correct? Everybody agree with that? Great, okay, we're done. We can go eat. No, just kidding, we'll do that later. Okay, but the first thing we're going to do, we're going to talk about how we can harness greater, more dynamic spiritual power. And our master has shown us many ways to do that. And there's many ways that are outlined in this excellent book. This is a plug. This is King Yoga. So anybody who hasn't read this book, who hasn't seen it, I think I really want to recommend it. It's well worth your while. And as Ashima said, having known Dr. King many, many years, this book is a very powerful book which teaches very accessible spiritual exercises that are very simple to understand, but yet very advanced. And in many cases, exercises that before recent times were really available only through initiations in some of the secret mystery schools of the East. So that's the end of my plug. But we're going to practice one of the experiences, one of the practices in this book a little bit later, so stand by for that. So today what we're going to do, Stephen and I, we're going to demonstrate our ability to invoke and to harness spiritual power. What does that mean? That means we're going to show you all that we can all do this. It's not something that's difficult to do. It's something that we can all learn to do very, very quickly and easily. Next, we're going to discuss what you can do with this power. So once you have this power, what am I supposed to do with it? And last, we're going to find out how it's easier to harness this spiritual power in these days than it has been for many thousands of years. And Stephen is going to elaborate on why that is. Okay, so back to harnessing spiritual power. Does anybody know what that means? Can anybody tell me what harnessing spiritual power means? Any hands? No hands, okay. Then I'll do the lifting for you. Harnessing implies that it's already there to be harnessed and used, right? So it's like harnessing a horse. The horse is already there. You don't have to create the horse. It's the same thing with spiritual energy. It's waiting there to be harnessed. It's all around us. It's in the pranas all around us that the sun radiates 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So we are all made of spiritual power, and we're all part of a greater spiritual power, and we function and we vibrate as beings to spiritual power in different degrees. What do I mean? Well, we all know that there's different planes of life above and below this plane that we live on, correct? Right? So they all vibrate in spiritual power and to spiritual power in different degrees or octaves. So it's energy. Spiritual power is, simply put, energy that vibrates at a higher level than maybe the energy we're used to using on a physical level. A pure, clean, healing, loving energy is what a lot of us like to think of it as. And there are really different octaves of the one energy called love, right? We're made of this spiritual power, and that's why we're able to harness it, attract it, focus it, and send it out to wherever we choose. Because it's already a part of us, we have a connection to it, right? A radionic connection. Our cells, our molecules are made of spiritual power, and our real selves are spiritual. Our spirit, in fact, our master, George King, teaches us that our duty is to spiritualize all matter, and the masters tell us that as well. And to illustrate this point, I'd like to tell you all a personal story, if you don't mind, which is a story that, for me, at the time, really brought home this fact that we're all made of spiritual energy. And I actually call upon this experience sometimes when I'm trying to invoke spiritual energy and to use it. And this particular time, I was in Santa Barbara, where the Master used to live, and I used to go up there a couple times a month. And this particular time, when I was up there, he called me into his bedroom. He was resting, and this was towards the end of his life. It was probably a year or two before he died. So he's resting in his bedroom, and he says, "Give me some healing, boy." Okay, well, that's made me a little nervous. It's the first time I gave him healing, right? So he says, he instructed me to give energy through his feet. And then he added, and this is the point that kind of threw me a little bit, he said, "A particular master will be sending energy through you, and the SER in Los Angeles is running for this." Well, that was a little bit of pressure, just a little bit of pressure. So, but then I relaxed and I tried to detach, and I just told myself, just give this man healing. That's your job. Now, this was probably old hat to Brian and Richard and Paul, who lived with the Master and used to give him healing several times a day. But for me, this was new. Well, in this case, I was not invoking this energy, right? But it was being channeled through me, and I was being used as a channel. And my job really was, in this case, to harness that energy that was coming through me, right? Or coming from another source in this case. Keep my thoughts high, tune into it, and be really a clear, loving, open, happy channel, and keep my thoughts as focused as possible, just like giving healing to anybody, as Jude can attest to. Pretty soon this power picks up, and I became aware of the individual cells in the Master's body becoming radiant. I could see them filled with light and happiness, and I was focusing on making those cells really joyous, right? And I did my best to hold that thought and increase the energy flow to those cells until they were virtually singing in joy. And I could feel those cells respond, and I could feel happiness coming back from them, and I became more and more aware of them as made of light, of pure spiritual energy. And this is what I was talking about. For me, this was a real vivid personal experience, which brought home the fact that we really, even though we think of ourselves as physical beings, we really are beings of light. The true nature of ourselves is the aura, the energy field that surrounds us and is the main part of us, the aspect of us which does not die, continues life after life through different incarnations. And pretty soon I could see the streaks of energy flying through me. So in this case, again, it was all about tuning into this energy and not blocking it and trying to hold this visualization. And sometimes harnessing means just that. Just like when you're praying at the battery, for those of you who have attended Operation Prayer Power, the mantra team is invoking the energy, and the prayer at the battery is pulling that energy in from a vortex of energy that the mantra team invokes and sending it into the battery. So again, harnessing. Sometimes harnessing might mean, as we'll see when we do some exercises in a few minutes, it might mean visualizing it, attracting it, and filling yourself with it. Other times that energy is already there as a pool of energy, and it really means capturing this and sending it out to where you want it to go. Everybody got that? Okay. Okay. So how do we do this? How do we harness great spiritual power? Well, I just gave one example. The tools have been given to us. We're going to discuss in just a few minutes, as I said, what those are, how to access and use those tools through a few simple exercises that our master and other masters have given us. And what we're going to do next is we're going to go to an extract from the Master Jesus who speaks about this in a different way as a Venusian master. It's a extract from the sixth blessing, "Blessed are they who heal." So Stephen's going to play that. That's about a 4-minute extract. And then after that, we're going to try a couple of exercises, okay? All right, so what I'd like everybody to do then is just everybody relax. Let's close your eyes. Sit up straight. Let's take a few deep breaths. long, slow breaths and just relax. See that light coming into you. Visualize a brilliant white light coming in, filling you. And just relax and tune into what this great cosmic avatar has to say.
Blessed are the ones who lay their hands upon the fevered brow of their brothers, knowing that their request will be answered, knowing that great power will flow through them like water through a river course. Blessed are these ones, for they are living their belief. It is indeed wrong of the so-called Christian church to turn the deaf ears of a dogmatic limitation upon the feats of these ones. These are the ones who will be instrumental in bringing the light of practice again into the Christian church. Even though some of them regard themselves not as Christians, yet by their very action they demonstrate a more Christianity in one healing path than their devout brothers do in all of their surface prayers. I am Jesus, who stepped upon this world to bring the way to God through love and service. I now bless those who give a service to me, to their brothers, and to God. In this way, thrice blessed are the healers, for they will bring light into my church.
Okay. Wasn't that wonderful? Beautiful. There's nothing like hearing the voice of the Master Jesus. I remember when I first heard that voice, I recognized it. The first time I heard it, and I just knew that was Jesus. So when he talks about, as he was, harnessing power, he's talking about giving it through service. He's talking about healing, right? And as Ashima said, when she talked about the most important yoga in these days is the yoga of service. That's karma yoga. That's what Jesus is talking about. The act of serving, harnessing, channeling, sending power in service. Okay. We're going to switch gears a little bit now. We're going to start some exercises. So if Ashima, if you could help pass out these mirrors, we're going to try a couple of simple little exercises that I think you might find fun and interesting. It's not about makeup, so ladies, put your makeup down. You all look great. And guys, you don't need makeup. There should be at least perfect. Okay. Okay, so what are these mirrors about? Okay. I'll wait until everybody's got them. This is just a real simple, fun exercise that you can all use and try to test yourselves as sending out spiritual energy. So what I'd like you all to do is, first of all, just take the mirror with your left hand. Put your right hand up to the mirror. Okay. Everybody got that? And I want you to visualize white light coming out of your right hand. Make a note of what you feel, if anything, but don't say it out loud yet. Okay, everybody tried that? I'll give you another couple minutes. Okay, let's put the mirrors down. Now, put the mirrors down by the side of your chair, please. Now what we're going to do is we're going to charge ourselves up through a couple of simple exercises with spiritual energy. And then we're going to try that again and see if we notice any change. Okay? This should be pretty easy considering the energy in this temple. But the first thing we're going to do is an exercise from this book, King Yoga. It's page 130. I'm going to put the mic on the stand so I can read it out to you. Okay, this is going to be a guided visualization. Okay, so everybody close your eyes. Okay, the first thing we're going to do is do some deep breathing just for a couple of minutes. I want you to please breathe in. Put your hands on your knees if you could. This will help you to lock this power that you're going to pull into your aura and your bodies. It'll help to lock it into your bodies so it's not dissipated. I want you all to do some slow, deep breaths in and out. Make the in count, the length of the in breath, the same as the out count. It's long and slow, and I want you to feel an energy coming in. I want you to try to feel this energy as an energy of love, of happiness, of joy and peace. I want you to put away all your problems and concerns. I want you to see this as a white light, radiant, pranic energy on the breath. See it pulling into the body. Exhaling, the body's getting brighter with each breath, more radiant. And just like the personal experience I shared with you, I want you to see all your cells getting brighter, happy, carefree, joyous, and really feel and know that you are part of God. You are divine. And this is your true nature. This is what you will become, is a shining aspect of God filled with light. Okay. We're going to do another breathing exercise now, and this is just going to be a few breaths like we do in Operation Prayer Power. I want you to do what is called a bellows breath, which is a more rapid inhalation and exhalation, which will, I want you to use the same visualization and hold the same thought and see the same white light filling your bodies as we just described. And I'll show you what this breath should be like. Okay, so I did 8 rapid breaths in and out, and on each breath I saw a white light filling my body, coming down my spine, filling my aura. I want you to try that on the count of 3. We're going to do 8. Ready? 1, 2, 3, go. And just hold that last breath as long as you feel comfortable holding it. As you hold it, see a white light filling the entire body. Just see yourselves as like a sun, radiant, shining, full of joy, full of happiness and peace. Okay, you can exhale as whenever you feel comfortable doing so. Okay, now we're going to do a guided visualization. So keep your eyes closed. And this is a visualization given by our master's master, George King's master, a Venusian by the name of Aetherius. Okay, here's what the Master Aetherius says to do. Visualize a radiant pink this time, emanation coming down through your head, shoulders, down your spine, coming all the way down the spine at the back and traveling at the front. So start this as a brilliant pink light over the head, clean and brilliant and shining pink light. It's the power of love. Down the spine at the back, all the way down. Guide it around the bottom of the spine, back up the front, back up to the top of the head again. Take your time. And when it gets to the top of the head, curl it over and back down the spine again. And back up the front of the body until you see that pink light resting above the head. And see this band of pink light, brilliant, clean, loving energy. Okay, let's keep the light where it is, and now we're going to do a separate visualization, but leave the pink light at the top of the head. This time, request from the Mother Earth her violet flame. This is an energy from the heart of the logos of the planet Earth, which is a cleansing and protecting energy. See this as a brilliant violet flame. See it coming up through the feet, through all the bodies, just like a huge flame rushing through you. Feel this energy rushing through you and going through you and as high as you can see above the head, 20, 30 feet. And just hold this. Allow this flame just to pour through you and feel it as a soft, caressing flame. as a cleansing flame. See it going through all your cells, like we talked about. Every cell filled with this and becoming cleansed and renewed. Okay. Now hold that visualization, and now request the light of God, and see this as a brilliant white light coming from the heavens as a column, a shaft of light, pure, brilliant, vibrant white light coming down through the top of the head, filling the head, neck and shoulders, and then filling the heart center, which is just about 3 or 4 inches outside the breastbone. See that heart center being filled with a white light, just like a reservoir of spiritual power. And see it also going out through the palms of the hands, traveling down the arms, out through the palms of the hands, out to the world, which needs this. Okay, let's wind down that visualization and take a few deep breaths. Don't fall asleep on me. And let's pick up those mirrors and let's try this practice again. Okay, this time we're going to do the same thing. And I want you to visualize the energy coming out of your hand and straight to the mirror. Get your hand a little closer to the mirror. See this as a brilliant white light pouring through your hand, just pouring through, just like a torrent of water. Nothing's restricting it, just brilliant streams, blinding light coming out of your hand. Okay, all right. Okay, everybody, anybody feel anything? Yes. What did you feel? Cassandra, what did you feel? You felt the energy? How did it feel? What did it feel like?
It's always just very happy making. And it goes in and it was bouncing it off, because I've done mirror work for about 40 years now.
She's an expert, folks.
So I was using it to get rid of some junk at the back of my throat and third eye chakra.
Could you work on me, please?
Yeah, no, so, and that was great because it unlocked a lot of stuff and burnt out. I call kind of personality signatures that we create through too much thought and stuff. So I was trying to burn out some of the residues of that, yes. So
awesome.
It was great fun.
Good, good.
It's very addicting.
Yes, it is, it is. Anybody else? Yes?
I felt like the heat at the palm of my hand, it was just very warm, which is something I didn't feel beforehand.
Uh-huh.
It was just very warm and just kind of soothing, I guess you can say.
That's one of the things you feel when you're sending power. So I'm glad you felt that. That's a physical reflection of what's happening in your aura. Yeah, I want you to, again, one person sending energy into the other person's left hand. Sending, and
I'm feeling it.
and the other person's just receiving.
Yeah, we are already sending. Very strong.
Well, welcome back, everyone. I know Rodney was asking you about your caffeine this morning, but did anybody have a bit of sugar, whether in the coffee or bagels or muffins or whatever? No. I got give you a history of sugar. Talking of energy. When it was first discovered about 500 years ago, within 100 years, Britain was consuming, whether it was as a form of rum or a preserve in jams and what have you, or in their tea, quite a lot of sugar per day. It gave people energy. Mind you, most people walked then. So, minor little detail. So, anybody want to hazard a guess? If you averaged out the sugar usage in Britain back then, there was 8 million people, how would that work out per person per day?
A lot.
A lot. So what? I mean, I remember buying 2 pounds of white sugar, a big bag, for my mum when we were making jam. But how many pounds per day, or ounces, or? Huh?
4 ounces.
No, this is all the sugar used in Britain to make whatever, plus divided by people. Huh? What have we got?
What are the answers and multiple choice?
Well, I gave a hint when I said 2 pounds. Any advance on 2 pounds? Anybody? Per day. This is the whole use of Britain, not just people. Well, so manufacturing and making jam and rum and whatever else they use sugar for. It was 12 pounds. That's an awful lot of sugar.
£12 per person per day.
Yeah, we're manufacturing as well, but not just usage. But anyway. So anyway, it's like, ow. Anyway, enough of that. Didn't go down too well, did it?
It was a sweet thought.
It's just, it's just that back then everybody thought it was marvelous because it gave them energy.
But they had no teeth.
That's right. Yeah.
The sun never set on the British Empire.
That's right. So well, let's have a recap. Where the heck are we? So we felt some kind of power or healing energy with different strengths and either tingling or warmth or cool breezes. We've had everything really. So hopefully we confirm to ourselves that something happened. We don't have to be too picky about it, and we felt a difference between the first test where it was cold, as it were, and then when we warmed it up, as it were, with practices. So we felt that difference. We got that established? Yeah, okay. So in this half of the presentation, we're going to be focusing on how to contact and harness more concentrated healing energy of different qualities so that we can be more effective, either for healing or our own development or helping the world as a whole. So, how often have we heard words to the effect, I would like to help the world, but I don't know what to do. If only I had the resources or whatever. It's quite common whenever there's a crisis, there's that kind of reaction, if only I could do something. So it's, for my mind, that's quite often the case. Well, we can make a huge difference. As we have the natural ability to heal, both individually and collectively. And the world needs our healing energy, as proven by our recent history. Anybody recognizes these two people? Wow, that's impressive. That was a lot of that before some of us were born. So. So you could say that was their first attempt, if you dismiss the Korean War, but the Cuban Missile Crisis, and basically we're only a few minutes away from nuclear destruction. So how come we're still here breathing almost clean air? What was the special ingredient? A year later, this dear fellow Kennedy was assassinated. And I was in London at the time with my parents. I was a little bit younger then. And they were weeping because they were expecting a nuclear war within days. That's how bad it was then, lest we forget. But it did not happen. Why is that? Certainly the opportunity was there. And a few years later, Russia invaded Czechoslovakia, which was another attempt at a world war. And that fizzled out. That should have been a confrontation with NATO. So it's not just the politicians. We've been told actually by the Cosmic Masters that the politicians never actually solve anything. That's true. It's the spiritual people that actually make the difference, the workers for peace. So then we had the Berlin Wall. That was in, 1989? Now this was part of the fall of communism from within, as predicted by the Master Aetherius 30 years before. Now, I don't know about you, but I didn't expect that to happen in my lifetime. So how did that happen? It wasn't just Reagan saying, tear down this wall. I mean, there's a lot more to it than that. So what is the common denominator, if you like, of all these crises in the world since the 1950s? It's spiritual energy. So what is different in this era, since the 1950s? The answer comes from NASA. Unlikely place for spiritual energy, but we have to remember that certainly the Apollo astronauts, who were well clear of the atmospheric belt of Earth, had different illuminating experiences or religious experiences. This is what some of them said. Frank Borman was the commander of the first space crew to travel beyond the Earth's orbit. And he said, I had an enormous feeling that there had to be a power greater than any of us, that there was a God, that there was indeed a beginning. You have to remember these astronauts were trained pilots. They were some of them were religious people, but as Christians, but this changed them. James Irwin, who walked on the moon in 1971, later became an evangelical minister. He often described the lunar mission as a revelation. And in his words, I felt the power of God as I've never felt it before. Why is that? And John Glenn, or Senator John Glenn, to look out at this kind of creation and not believe in God is to me impossible. So the reason for that is they were outside the ionosphere and were able to connect to God a lot more easily than we can here. So this is the world before nuclear tests, you can see there's a ring pass knot, they call it, the ionospheric belt around the Earth, and that was put there after Lemuria, before Atlantis. It's thousands of years ago, hundreds of thousands of years ago, to limit the negative emanations of our violent humanity from affecting the solar system and their karma. See, the sun still could transmit energy, and there was intercommunication in a limited scale, but it still was functional. So what happened in 1950? This gives you an idea. We had Hiroshima and that in 1945, but the first serious testing was the hydrogen bomb, 1951. And you can see that, oh, my mouse doesn't work then, but there was a peak here. It's 1,000 Hiroshimas were equivalent, exploded just in 53, 54, culminating in Bikini. Then it quietened down a bit, and then this crazy time, 1961, where it's 12,000 Hiroshimas equivalent. And most of that was in the atmosphere. And what happened was, I'll give you another example, to give an idea of the ionospheric belt. So this is the upper limit of the ionosphere, and this is the start of it. And there's airliner limit, military limit. The blackbird used to fly around this height. Then you have up here in the ionosphere most of the satellites and the shuttle, the International Space Station, even Sputnik got up to here. The Hubble is getting close to the top limit of the ionosphere, and rockets generally made it just past it. And then you've got the geostationary ones are way up high. But the big problem was these tests were in this belt. There's 500 of them between 45 and 63, and two monsters, the megatons, 58 and 62. So when you have these explosions within the ionospheric belt around the Earth, but what happens is the ionospheric belt hardened, that had the effect, and it started to cut off the energies flowing backwards and forwards, and humanity from God. That's why the astronauts outside of that could have such remarkable experiences. But the Masters said that the Earth was due to die because of this. She was cut off. It's like strangled, if you like. This is in the 50s and 60s. So I'll give it to you. Now, just supposing we could bring God closer to humanity inside the ionosphere. How could we do that? You can't bring the sun there. That's going to be not going to work, is it? But how can we harness that spiritual energy, which currently is really outside the ionosphere, and get it down? Well, the Masters had a simple solution. Well, the Great Plan or the Cosmic Plan. And one of these was bring in satellite number 3. And here's a representation of its effect. If we remember that chart I got, let me go back there quickly. This chart, it's above the ionosphere of 1,550 miles. but it can send energy forcing through there with the machinery that they have on board. So this is a representation of the third satellite. Our master actually visited there in the 50s and came back with this description and had Al draw up this beautiful representation. Huh? Wasn't Al? No, okay. Not this, but I mean originally. So you have the energy from the sun coming in this big dome, and then it's sent down to these pyramids which filter the energy, split it, and then it goes through this, what they call transmitting crystals, which they can harness the energy and tweak it, and it comes out through this transmitting dome to the Earth. So that was one way of getting energy through the ionosphere. The other way was to store some of that energy in the holy mountains. And our master was used as a channel. This is him in Ram's Head in Australia, but quite a significant photo.
You can actually see energy coming down around over his head and onto his shoulders. And I can tell you, I've seen the negative of this, and it's on the negative. There's about 7 negatives that have this energy coming down to our master, just like a halo. And to me, it's like, this is what the Christians, when they illustrate a halo, we're talking about. It's a column of energy that illuminates, in this case, a master.
So back in the 58, our masters initially, the first charge was at Holston Down here, and with the Master Jesus contacting him, and that started what we call now Starlight. But then there was, after that, the 12 blessings were given on consecutive Sundays. So it took a while to get these 9 mountains charged. That was done just for not so much convenience, but it was the quickest way to get something anywhere on the earth. And we had, at that time, the most of our membership was in Britain, so they were able to use a lot of these mountains. Then he came to America, and Mount Baldy was charged in 59, and then we had Talat, Mount Adams in the snow, and then Castle Peak. Here we are in Australia. There's Ram's Head, the picture we just saw. Kosciuszko was very close to it, and then he went to New Zealand at Christmas, Mount Wakefield. And then we had Mount Kilimanjaro was charged by members of the Great White Brotherhood, and that became one of their retreats, just on the east coast of Africa. It's the tallest one. Thank God we didn't have to do that ourselves. That would have been very difficult. And to wrap up, there was 2 in Europe, one in France. Sorry. That's yeah, and then Rodin Daigle. There's Jimmy. So that completed it. It took him, he did 18 of these, as I said, and it took him over 3 years to complete. Now, combined with that was the giving of the 12 blessings so that we could have a very good way of getting the energy out of the mountains and to use satellite number 3. So it was a combined thing that he was then acted as a channel for the 12 blessings. This is him on a book signing. As I say, it was 12 consecutive Sundays in 58. And that's what we use on every Sunday here. We play one of these blessings. And on every Monday, we do a 12 blessing service. And many members around the world do their own individual 12 blessing services. And all our branches and groups have either a Monday or another day assigned for that. So there's quite a bit of power goes out. And we visit these holy mountains to generate this power. They've got one in England pretty soon. And I was there on Holston Down when there was 250 people on the mountain. Beautiful, very powerful. You can pick up the energy very quickly there because it's been used so much. It's on a contrast is this was on the Castle Peak, was what, 18,000 feet? So this is on the way up. And there's one on the top of Mount Baldy, which is about 8,000 feet. So it's a bit of a trek to get up there, even with snow lifts. So that gives you an idea of the things that we can do. We do 3 or 4, 5 sometimes pilgrimages to Mount Baldy in the year when we can get up there. Now, to give you an idea of my experience with the different power, I started to learn the 12 blessings when I was still at school, when I was 17. The general idea is you try and remember the blessing heading and the prayer, which, or if it has one, to go with it, so that when you do say it as a prayer, it's more powerful than just reading it. So it's important to get it in the brain. And I began to feel the difference then in just a few weeks, with my hands begin to tingle. So then in a few months later, I went on the summer holidays, school holidays, and went on my first pilgrimage to a holy mountain in Scotland with my brother, Richard, that fella there. On the way, we stopped at a little cottage where lived 2 elderly people who ran the society in the north of England. And they were originally present at the giving of the 12 blessings in 1958. They suggested that we join them for a service in their healing sanctuary. So there was just 4 of us in this little room. And I was astonished at the difference in the power. And at the end, I had to sit down. I could understand, 4 people together, that would make it more powerful, but what was the difference? See, when they were at the 12 blessings, everybody who attended was given a little cross, blessed by the Master Jesus. So they had 2 of these in this tiny little room. It's enough to make your hair stand on end. It's so powerful.
That's not fair.
We've had one here, and it just fills the room, in the temple. The other factor was that it was a spiritual push. It just started, and it's the first time I'd done a 12 blessings service in the spiritual push. So you had that as a factor as well. And we've been told that if one makes the effort to draw energy from satellite number 3 and send it to the world, it has an influence of 3,000 times more powerful than if you're doing it on your own. So that's a significant chunk of change there. It really makes a difference. So then we left the next day and to go to Ben Hope, just the 2 of us. And that was in the north of Scotland. It's about as far north as you can get in Scotland. We did 3 12 blessing services when we finally got there. We were hitchhiking. I don't know if you remember those days, but don't do that anymore, do we? We're very close to the Arctic Circle, and I was getting cold. This is middle of August. We've been told previously that we would not feel much energy until we had descended, and thank heaven for that. We got down to the valley floor, and we crawled into our tents after shooing away those nasty little black flies called midges, which bite like heck. Managed to get them out of the tent. I lay down on my sleeping bag and promptly went into want of a better term, a positive trance. It certainly wasn't negative. In those days, it would be called getting stoned, but but the only thing I'd inhaled, as it were, was a tremendous energy from the holy mountains, plus the water from the coming off the mountain, a waterfall, which was like nectar. So I was in this state of bliss for about 2 hours, and then only then was I able to move and talk. It was the most elevated experience I've had in this life so far, and I've had a few odd experiences. So today we've only touched on a few ways to harness healing energy. To simplify, you could say that the Aetherius Society focuses on harnessing and giving spiritual healing on different levels. As I said, we hold 12 blessing services weekly throughout the world. And some individuals do their own daily service. During a spiritual push, when the satellite is in orbit, we hold weekly power circles in centers around the world. And Rodney mentioned about prayer power, that throughout the year and throughout the world in 5 centers, every week, we focus our prayers and our mantra and store this concentrated energy in batteries, so that when at the right time, when it's needed, we can send this energy immediately to situations around the world where it's most needed. In the past 60 years, we have helped stop, the first time it was a war in Cyprus, just after we'd started Prayer Power, many hurricanes, typhoons, tsunamis, disastrous earthquakes, fires and floods. We'd done them all. Never mind Chernobyl, the Berlin Wall, Poland, 9/11, Fukushima, the Middle East, which is just endless, Korea, more recent. Any major crisis, and we have been instrumental in relieving the pressure on that situation. We regularly send the highest frequency spiritual energies that we can obtain on this earth, which is in the holy mountains, not the stuff that we can get by being on the mountain, but the deeper energies. Other adepts get the energy out of the mountain. And we send this to the Mother Earth as a part payment for all that she has done for mankind over the centuries. We call this Operation Sunbeam. So to wrap up, there are many ways we as individuals or in groups can help our world by bringing the power of God beneath the ionosphere in different ways, and so be instrumental in our planet becoming a better place. The Masters have given us the tools to help ourselves and the world on which we travel through space. Let's do it.
All right.
So, as questions and answers time.
Yeah, we're going to take a couple of questions and answers and talk about anybody's experience. We've got about 10 minutes, and then we're going to go next door because I'm sure everybody's getting hungry or thirsty. And Steve, that was awesome, full of fantastic information. Thank you so much. It's very important to have this kind of information and background so that you understand. You know, we've got 2 parts to this, as you saw. We talked about how everybody can invoke and harness spiritual energy, right? And you can feel it, so you know it's real. And you can test it and try it on yourself and your friends and family and neighbors and so forth. But also, this information that Steve presented is critical because it explains what kind of sources of energy are available, why, what the history is, and why it's so critical to be involved and active these days. And as the Master always used to say, the Aetherius Society is nothing short of a spiritual commando unit. We spring into action when there's crises, and really that's what we're all about, karma yoga. So having said that, let's have any questions, answers, or comments. Brian.
When's the next pilgrimage for Mount Baldy?
I knew you were going to ask that. I think the next one is on the 23rd, correct, Paul? 28th.
Saturday week. 2 weeks.
2 weeks. 2 weeks. Good question. So everybody's invited to come to the next pilgrimage to Mount Baldy, and you can get details from anybody here, probably at the social. Okay? And then we're going to have a World Peace Pilgrimage, World Peace Pilgrimage coming up on what date, Paul?
Saturday, August the 25th.
25th.
That brings people of different faiths.
Right. And that's a very popular event where we typically have hundreds of people attending from all different faiths, literally any and all different faiths, and it's a lot of fun. Yes, you had a question.
In working with the mountains, what is the area, say you want to work with the mountain, can you access it from close by? Do you have to be near it? How does it work?
That's a great question, because you don't have to be close by if you're using stones from those mountains. It's difficult to get to those mountains, right? We have one close to us, Mount Baldy. We have Mount Talak in Tahoe. But we have holy shapes out here in the foyer, in the bookstall area that you can look at and purchase. I think we have at this point 9 shapes, 9 different mountains. Yes, there's some on the altar here. We also have holy stones made into pendants that you can wear. You see a lot of us wear during services and spiritual practices. Now, there's a radionic link between the stones in these shapes and pendants and the holy mountain that stone is from. And since Operation Starlight was concluded in 1961, the mountains were all interconnected so that you can connect with the energy from all 19 holy mountains using a stone from just one mountain. So it's a pretty amazing thing. So it's an easy way to access that energy. Great question. Yes, Jude?
Why did you join the Aetherius Society?
Oh my God, how many hours do you have? Well, personally, I was looking for something to make a difference through for many years. I remember when I was 4 and 5 praying. I would pray for every night, and I would pray to be shown my mission or my purpose in life. And so I think that's the case for a lot of us, that we have felt that we were searching for something, some truth, some purpose, some calling. We felt that intuitively and inherently, right? So all of our experiences are different, yet in some ways they're common, because really we're searching for truth. We're searching for God. And that's inescapable as a sentient being, right? Even animals, in their own way, search for truth and love, right? It's their comprehension of what light is, okay? So you see it in all beings. So for me, it was a journey, as I know it was for most people here. Next question. Yes.
Has anybody from Ancient Aliens spoken with you? Because a few weeks ago, there was an episode, I was walking in and out of the room at the time, but they were talking about a satellite that was sent here to do something over Earth. So I was wondering if anybody from that organization...
From that TV show?
Yes, spoken with you.
I don't know offhand. I'm seeing people say no, so I take it as no, but we'd be happy to talk to them.
Well, yeah, it was interesting because they were talking about this satellite that was orbiting the Earth that had been sent, by other aliens. And so I thought, oh, so they're kind of on the track there with Satellite 3.
They probably saw some of our teachings.
And they talked about, and then there was another one where Nikola Tesla was getting all his information from your guys on Mars.
I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah, that's what he claimed. He was the people on Mars. So I thought, oh, it's the people that are sending Satellite 3, yeah. Yeah, so that was
Very interesting.
Yeah.
Very interesting.
So
Steve?
we should watch the show. Sorry.
We should
Not
watch
that we should watch the show.
We should watch
I
the
think
show.
it's off now. It's before they start the new season. But.
However, when you consider that we are all not originally from this planet, but we're from a planet called Maldek, which we as a race destroyed 18 million years ago. That makes all of us ancient aliens, does it not?
Not very holy either.
Yes. Do you have anything to add to that, Steve?
No,
Okay, any more? Yes, Ashima.
Can I just add something? I just like to mention that the spiritual pushes, satellite number 3, and the holy mountains, the energy that is being sent to Earth or being made available through these 3 channels is available to anyone. It's not just for Aetherius Society members. Like whether you're a member, whether you're a sympathizer or not, it is here for anyone to access. So you can just go to a holy mountain. We have one in the backyard, like Ronnie pointed out, by yourself, if you like. I mean, it is more potent if you join in a group to invoke energy and send it out. That's why it's good to go to a pilgrimage. But then if you want to just go by yourself, you can still feel the energy, because the thing is, the energy is put into these mountains so that you would be able to access it very easily, whereas it would take a master in the past to be able to tune in to this very high frequency of energy. So that's just what I wanted to add. And also, we also have online travel blessing services, in addition to services that are held at our centers.
Every week.
Yeah.
Just to clarify on the holy mountains and what's the difference, because in the past there were mountains which were charged, but the problem was you had to be an adept to be able to get the energy out, and like Mount Shasta, for example. So you're better off going to one of these holy mountains, Talak or Baldy, than making the trip to Mount Shasta, because the energy is deliberately done so it's available for the human race unadapted.
Those are great points, and thank you, Ashima, because Ashima is absolutely correct that all of these teachings and resources are available for all mankind, and they were given to all mankind, not just members of this organization. So, very important point. Any more questions, comments, shared experiences? Yes, Paul?
This satellite number 3, how often does it come in? Is it there all the time? Or?
It comes, I believe, 4 periods each year, and those periods are published on our website. And we have literature in the bookstall that details that information and gives you more information about what that means. But it's 4 periods a year where spiritual activity of any kind is enhanced by 3,000 times. That's a good question.
And we're in one now.
We are in one now, correct.
I think I read something that they're committed to doing this for a 1,000-year period.
At least 1,000 years. Because we need it. You know what else we need? We need food. We need coffee. And we need to share some of our experiences together. So now we're going to wrap up this part of it, and we're going to all move next door, 2 doors down, to the George King Center, and enjoy some company, some food, and we'll see you there. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
So I just want to say thank you to Stephen and Ronnie for their very interesting and enlightening presentation today. And I think we all were able to experience or harness this energy so that we can better use it going forward. And I'd just like to thank all of you for being here today to share in this experience. And our next King Yoga Experience event is on August 11th. And the title will be, What is a Yogi? So hope all of you will be able to join us again. And just like to plug, I think Paul is going to give an event next month about satellite number 3. Is that correct?
Possibly.
Possibly? Okay. I was hoping to just like mention it, but it's not set yet the date. So just stay tuned, and I think it will be very interesting, that event. So hopefully you can join in on that as well. So again, thank you all for being here, and let's go over and have some food. Hope you can stay for that.
Go, girl.